going from place to place. It does. There's a lot of problems. And going back to the rates of crime has been down 30%. Right now, the mayor or the chief of police is under investigation for manipulating numbers on that. But I will tell you what 30% means, because I made this point to someone else who raised the question online. 30% dropping in murders means that instead of 186 homicides, there was 125. It means instead of 473 rapes, there was about 382. And so when you see a 30% drop in crime rates, you tell me which one's better, 383 rapes or 445. And that's why that number means nothing to me, because the fact that it's occurring at all. When I was in DC, a guy got shot point blank in the public library, which my kids and wife like to go to. There was homeless people all over the streets. And the fact of the matter is that DC is not a city or a municipality. So when people apply the same standards or legality in how it's enforced or safety has occurred, it is not one and the same. They are different. So even if the mayor doesn't like it, the chief of police, Trump is following the law in this case.
Two things. Whenever a situation arises where crime is not to the president's liking, it could be 400 rapes, it could be 300 rapes, but you're never going to have 0 rapes. So what you're telling me is that whenever, because this is subjective,
Sure.
It's not
the president gets to decide.
So you're telling, whenever a president feels like there isn't a satisfactory amount of crime, he gets to send in troops. Now, I want to ask you, do you think that's a good precedent to set across the country? Militarized troops, where Pete Hegseth now says they can be walking around armed. Is that the kind of America you want to live in?
All right, I'm going to go real political RC3 on you and say, are you against our military? I'm just joking. I've called for militarization of this border, which we are seeing ongoing right now. From a federal district perspective of Washington, D.C., having been there myself, I was never there in the past, but I've seen pictures and heard of what the place used to be. I do believe this response is only in reaction and retroactive to the actions that the mayor and police did not enforce. If people are breaking laws, doing drugs on the streets, I saw it. If they're doing that and the mayors are not enforcing the law or the safety of the community, I believe it is the president's responsibility in showing the front door of our country. And it's a beautiful place. Washington, D.C., between the monuments, the museums, to take your family, your kids to be able to go there.
But how is that a military issue?
Why is having the military bad?
Because we don't live in a militarized society. That's why. Because we don't want to live in a society where we walk out the door and see troops everywhere. Those are third world country standards. That's not American standards. And if there is a problem with crime, then how about we do better policing?
I would not say that it is militarized. There is ongoing military efforts.
What would you call it?
Enforcement. This isn't Germany with Jews in World War II saying that all the Jews have to walk on the left side of the street and the Mexicans have to walk on the right. You've seen the videos. You know, both. Yes, it's extreme. They are enforced. Is not doing drugs, homeless. They are allowing them to go on with their lives. And if you're having that lifestyle in our nation's capital, it's not going to be accepted. You know, go to bro. Hey,
I'll tell you, people vote with their feet.
That's true.
Nobody's going right now. If you look at the stat, Washingtonians on their, whether they're going out to restaurants or whether they're going out to bars, by 70%, 60 or 70%, I saw this stat, they oppose the militarization of their own city. 70%, sure. And they're supposedly the ones going through the crime, and they're against it. Nobody wants to live in a militarized state, especially when there's another thing that you mentioned, especially when crime has been going down. Now, there is no perfect amount of crime. We all wish crime was down to 0,
of course.
But what you're forgetting and what you're neglecting in your analysis of the crime rate is that the trend is going down.
Now he's helping it lower it even more.
If the trend was going up, then maybe you can make a case.
Why would we want that? Why not continue that trend? So why not try to bring it to 0?
Because somebody look, and when you came in here, I saw you take a picture of the founding fathers.
Yes, sir.
Right there, because everybody who knows me knows my respect for the founding fathers. Benjamin Franklin said, "He who is willing to give up a little bit of liberty for a little bit of security
deserves
neither." Take advice from the founding fathers, man. And you're willing to give up a little bit of liberty for a little bit of security.
But I would rebut that the military that is there, the National Guards, remember, we don't have the Navy, we don't have SEAL Team 6 on the streets of DC. Yeah, okay. So, no, but there is no liberties of Americans walking on the streets of DC that are being encroached upon. Only those that are breaking the law are subject to the enforcement. Like I said, saying that their liberty is being encroached upon is an extreme position. Just like me saying separating the Mexicans and the Jews on the streets walking is an extreme position. What I do believe we're right in the middle right now.
What I'm saying is, I don't want to open up the window to even get to that point. Okay?
Maybe, and if it does, I will agree with you. If it became more extreme and we saw liberty being encroached upon, I would agree with you. Like, no, this is not an American value.
And let me ask you something. It's not weird to you that other governors of other states are sending their own National Guard to D.C.? Many of those red states who have worse crime rates than D.C., you don't find that a little strange?
So you know why they're doing that,
Why
right?
only the blue states?
They're doing it because I believe the federal statute is the troops can only actually stay there for a certain amount of time,
30 days.
And then they have to leave. Hey, business loophole. You bring another state. We got 50 states to work with.
That's the scary shit I'm talking about, man. It's like
that's the law. That's the way the law was written. If it's scary, then our representatives and Congress need to change the law. But if you're following within the law and we're not encroaching upon liberty, which I would argue we're not, then I maintain that things are going very well.
Look, I maintain that just by having military boots on the ground and the chilling effect that has on its own citizens, like the Washingtonians themselves have said, is already encroaching on liberty.
Well, feelings do not equate to encroachment upon liberty.
I'm not talking about feelings. I'm talking about, like I told you earlier, they're voting with their feet. They're not even going out.
But how is encroaching upon liberty following the law? Because that is what's occurring. Like you said, 30 days, another state comes in. That's the law that was set. Now, again, though, D.C., though, is a federal district. It is not a city.
Gregory, because I don't want to go out and have interactions with cops on a fucking daily basis. I don't want to go out and see military on every corner asking me where I'm going. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, if you're not doing anything wrong, then what do you have to fear? Fuck you. Hey, this is America.
I would argue that in the Valley, actually, we live in a very similar occurrence. There's Border Patrol everywhere. I'm at Taco Paquet, got Border Patrol sitting down. I go to McDonald's, they're in the drive-thru. If you were to be committing a crime, if you were passed out on fentanyl or smoking a joint in that Taco Palenque, the Border Patrol...
You're going to the extremes.
No. Like, I'm saying that here, we have a federal law enforcement presence all from Rio Grande City all the way to Boca Chica.
When was the last time you've been harassed by a Border Patrol agent here in the Valley? I'm not talking about your brother-in-law. Never. Exactly. Never. It doesn't happen.
And I bet if you were to go to Washington, D.C. right now, you would not be harassed by a National Guard member.
Well, then they should. Their presence there should be welcomed with everybody by open arms.
It's a political discourse that people are not happy that they're there. Because Trump's actually doing something.
No, because people don't want to live in a police state. I mean, this used to be your strong point.
Yes, of course. But the police state...
How did we liberals end up being the ones sounding like conservatives of, 2012?
Donald Trump, bro. But no, seriously. It's because the crime has been significant. The trends are not good enough. But like I said, the numbers themselves... And if Donald Trump has the authority to change for the better that city and utilize National Guard members, I completely agree with that. Just like I agree with having the military for southern border. I know Border Patrol agents and people that are Republicans, conservative, they do not want the military here on the border. I disagree. I do think that a supporting force is helping drive down crime, drive down illegal immigrants. And similar in Washington, D.C., maybe the police and the mayor didn't want to do their job. Maybe they were doing their job, but I would argue the supporting force has a net positive effect on society.
You could get crime down to zero if you put a police officer in front of every house. Donald Trump could get crime down to zero, but we don't live in that country. We live in a country of laws, and we live in a country of rules. A lot of those rules are not on us, but are limitations on what the government can do.
And you said it yourself, RC3. 30 days is the law.
We actually started a revolution because same kind of shit was happening. Now, it hasn't gotten to that point, but in America, we shouldn't even be having this discussion.
Look, I'll be honest, and I've been to DC a few times, and I agree with it. And I hope he sends National Guard troops to Austin, Texas next. Austin's bad, man.
You're crazy, man.
Austin's unsafe. I mean, the people that are dying on the streets there, and Austin actually has a significant police force. The problem is that my kids know it as the smelly city, unfortunately. When I take them downtown, when we're eating restaurants.
Well, smelling's not a crime.
Going to work. Smelling's not a crime, but people that are defecating on the streets, that are passed out on drugs that inhibit public safety and health standards, that is a crime.
That's a city problem.
And it can be enforced.
And that's a city problem.
And you're right. And that's probably why.
And their people keep voting the same people in.
It's
That's their choice. Federalism.
But DC is not a city.
It's federalism.
DC is not
another
a city.
conservative principle that just has been thrown by the wayside. Federalism. You let states handle their own business.
Very true. And Governor Abbott, I know for a fact, has been fighting Austin City Council, Austin Mayor, and not allowing DPS and others to go into that jurisdiction of downtown Austin. And so the problems with big cities, like historical cities like Austin, like Detroit, like LA, like Washington, D.C., New York, they share similar consequences of what we see. And if no one goes in and disrupts or intervenes from that, it goes downhill and gets worse.
But maybe they like their cities. You ever think of that?
Well,
maybe
Austinites, I think.
Maybe Austinites like Austin the way it is. Maybe they want to keep it weird, right?
That's probably why they've been losing some population.
Well, leave them the fuck alone. You know, if they want their city, they keep voting the same people in. This is America, Gregory.
It is America, but public safety, public health, and even the government's job sometimes is to protect people from themselves. I'm not saying I want that every day or a police officer in front of their home, but the government's job is to protect and serve people. And sometimes that literally means protecting you from yourself.
Until the hand gets too heavy.